I know we talk a lot about succession planning on this program, and it's important. It's important to all entrepreneurs. Our company actually did a whole group of research from both investors and from advisors, and it's fascinating. You should hear some of these stats. So today, to talk about those stats, we have John Novachis from Investment Planning Council. So earlier this year, my company, Investment Planning Council, we actually conducted a survey of Canadian advisors and investors. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to learn more about what they think and feel about succession planning. It's a huge topic right now. Of course, aging demographic, people having these successful businesses, and many advisors are reaching that age. They're now really contemplating retirement or at least slowing down. And we want to learn really from the advisors what's important to them at this time. Plus, we wanted to have a different angle on it as well. We wanted to hear from investors and find out what's important to them about seeing their advisors going through a succession plan. And as they start to retire, what's important to that investor and what they should be looking for. And it was great. We had a lot of good responses. The data has been fascinating to dig through and look at different angles. And so I thought it would be great to share it with my listeners. What is it that is important to both advisors and investors at this time? So joining me today to talk about it and share with all the things that you need to know about succession planning coming right from advisors and their clients. Today we have John Novachis, and he's no stranger to the show. We've had him on several occasions just to talk about this particular topic. He is the Executive Vice President of Corporate Growth and Development at Investment Planning Council. He's been kicking around for 25 years in this business and all kinds of initiatives throughout the business. He's been in, recruitment. He's done we've done well over 26 transactions together. He's done business valuations for advisors. He's worked with advisors on their succession planning, and he's really helped with the whole culture of the organization. What he does right now is him and his team there is so much demand for succession planning and help in succession planning from advisors right across Canada. His whole team, that's what they do. They work with advisors on their succession plan. Want to maximize the monetization of their business, make sure that their teams are looked after, their clients are looked after. And to date, I think actually this is an old number. It's 110 advisors. I think we're up to 115 advisors now that have gone through this program to help them with their succession plan. So he's so knowledgeable in this particular program. He actually did his MBA thesis on advisor succession planning. So welcome back to the show, John.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be here, and thank you for the great introduction. I think I started with you when I was blonder, and now not so blonde.
I was going to say both of us had a lot more hair back there, so but it comes wisdom. I'm going to say that's what it is.
That's right.
So, John, IPC did a whole bunch of research in this area. We hired a third-party company to go out and talk to advisors and investors. Why do you think this research is important, and why should people care?
This is a growing phenomenon. I think the whole area of succession isn't new. What the data is saying is it's coming at us in a pretty big wave. And the research that I did a few years ago indicated that there's probably about $400 to $500 billion of client assets managed by advisors approaching a retirement age. And back then that was 3 to 5 years. So I think it's kind of 1 to 2 years away that is happening here. And so there is this big wave of advisors that are going to reach a retirement age. It doesn't mean that they'll all retire, but a real need to in the marketplace to, what I would say, support those advisors in helping them realize, the benefits of the hard work and the businesses that they've created. And in some cases, Chris, their business, their advisory business could represent their largest net worth asset. So it's a very important area, not just to understand the size and the demographics, but the need of entrepreneurial advisors to be able to monetize their business and the current methods used to monetize their business, while we've seen lots of successful ones, they do come with some other risks, and I think with the size of this, we need to create more choice, and I would say this research is helping understand the importance of this, not just from the advisor perspective, but the client perspective. I guess the final piece I would say, importance of this is, I use the word continuity, is this is kind of like the Lion King, right? We've helped and worked with advisors for so many years to help them realize the benefits. Now that they've realized the benefits, it's important to say, how are we going to create that continuity solution of the next generation advisor to come in behind them?
No, I would agree. So let's dig into some of these numbers that we found out through the research, and let's start with the advisors. When you look at the data, and I've looked at it, and it is fascinating. What really stands out to you? When you look at the research, what are the things that just pop from an advisor point of view?
81% of advisors surveyed say they don't have a plan. So that's 4 to 5.
81%.
81%. 4 to 5 don't have a plan.
That's crazy.
But then when you dig in a little bit deeper, 94% of those say it's very, very important. So it's an even higher thing. It's 4 and 5, but now it's almost 5 out of 5 saying this is real important. And I've spent a lot of time talking to advisors about what's troubling them in this area, and to me, I know I've not been and lived in the shoes of an entrepreneurial advisor, but it's about 80% say they got a good reason, and then when you probe about the good reason, I would say it's a lot about ifs and buts are candies and nuts, right? And it's, we don't know who to trust. I'm afraid of losing client connections. We've spent 30 years, having dinner together, having our kids grow up together, things like that. But I think the hardest one, everybody would say it's all financial, right? And it's actually more between the ears. It's the emotional part of it, of the uncomfort that there might be an end to a great career, and so it's really the emotional aspect, Chris. I think that is the toughest part to overcome.
Yeah, and I would see that as an advisor myself, and somebody who sold a business and a financial advisory business. I can tell you that your sort of heart and soul is invested in it, and so you sort of identify with being an advisor, and your whole life sort of revolves around this identity that you have, and that's very difficult to give up. And then what you see is, of course, then people hanging on far too long, right? They're not necessarily as enthusiastic as they used to be, nor can they service as many clients or do as good a job or keep up on everything. I always tell the story, and this, when I had a practice and it was time for me to more focus on the corporate side than the clients. I remember, so I had a successor. He was a great guy, did a good job. And I remember telling him, you know what, my clients love me. They're all going to leave when I go. They're going to be so upset. You'll be lucky if you keep like 60%, probably 40% are going to leave. Then we did the transaction 1 year later. The production actually went up 15%. So it was actually me that was holding it back the whole time. We had 100% retention. And after a year, they forgot that I existed. So as much as I thought I was very important to these people, I think they're far more important to you. And so,
Go ahead.
You've been through some of this, right? So, some of the things that, how many are really prepared? Like, in your opinion, how many are actually prepared for this event to occur?
It's. I'm going to use some of the experience of working with advisors through this and what they felt after going through it. So there's certainly lots of concern, trepidation. I don't know. I've never been through this before, and I think the big thing that there's probably four areas I would note post a successful succession. Number one is just a huge weight off the shoulders, right?
Right.
The advisor sees, as you did in your particular transaction, that clients, are being well served by
Right.
their successor, chosen properly, and they will stay. It may not necessarily be the same voice at the end of the day, but and we may talk about this a little bit more later. But if we build the right business, the dream business, the one that's the most transferable business, boy oh boy, that things can become a lot easier. And so when you have that kind of a business and a successor can step in, yeah, it may not be the same voice, but if the processes are followed and that great delivery continues, that gives a lot of confidence. The second area of weight off the shoulder is the staff. Are the staff being taken care of? And the successful transactions I've been through, continuity of the staff is vital, right?
Right.
Our advisors may not spend as much time with the clients as our staff does, and so if we deliver that great continuity for the staff and they are part of it, again, drives a lot of comfort. But I guess the biggest thing that I've noticed is the enjoyment, the more work-life balance, the freedom from the day-to-day of being an entrepreneur. And, this was a business that perhaps the only way you could become really, really successful was to be an entrepreneur. But that comes with a lot of work. And, I think you would say you enjoy, in your time as an entrepreneur, your greatest enjoyment was being with clients, right? And not so much worried about did we process the payroll this week and things like that. So that's how people feel once they get through it. And to me, that's the weight that comes off and say, yes, this can be done.
Yeah, no, I think the people that I talk to, it's the same thing. It's one of the two. They get to scale down so that they get to, just deal with the people they enjoy and really get rid of all the things that weighs them down and is a burden to them. Or, as I said, there's a whole other life after this business. I know it's hard to believe, but there are places to see and things to do, and people, that we've worked with are now working in their communities. They have their favorite charities. They're traveling the world. So it is nice to see after. I will, dive into one of the things you mentioned.
Maybe I just want to interrupt you for just a second. Yeah. One of the best stories I had around after this successful transition was, I remember as an advisor out of Kitchener-Waterloo that came up to say to me, John, I knew this was great when I was at Costco on Saturday morning doing our regular sort of Costco run, and I ran into some of my clients, and it was the client saying, boy, oh boy, thank you very much for this successful transition and the advisor that you've put in place to help us. So, like when stuff like that happens, that is the goal. That's just the secret sauce at the end of the day. That's this culmination of boy, oh boy, did we do the right thing? When clients can say that, and you see them at Costco on Saturday morning.
Actually, that's the perfect story. And it's a valuable lesson. I'm going to expand upon one of the points that you made, which is your business ready for succession? Because you do meet, and I meet advisors like in all stages, from startup stage to growth stage to maturity stage. And a lot of them I do talk about. I'm like, have you thought about succession? They're like, I don't have to worry about succession. I got another 5 years. I got another whatever. But the challenge with that is, at the time of starting that business, you should think about how easy is it for somebody else to take it over? How refined are the processes? How easily are they duplicated? How are we going to continue on with the same great client experience over and over and over? And that's not something you just do when you wake up one morning and you decide to, it's time for me to hang up the spurs. It's
Right.
something that you have to do from day one. And I do see these huge contrasts both in how people look at their long-term views of succession planning and how they build their business. But I also see it dramatically in valuations. Like I've said this a million times. People are like, what's my business worth? And I always tell them, and you can certainly expand upon this, your business is direct value is directly proportional to how easily somebody else can take it over. If it's all around personality and investment prowess and all of these things that people do take great pride in, I'm not sure how valuable that business is because it's very hard to duplicate by somebody else. But if it's around processes and great relationships and client experiences, those are incredibly valuable businesses. And maybe you can expand a little bit about that as someone who, works both sides of that.
I often ask the question, a couple of questions when early in the process of conversations, and I ask the question, would you buy your own business? And what would you pay for your business? The second question I ask is, are you a client? And do you know how your clients are treated? Could you today, if you were to be a brand new client in your business, would you know what kind of experience that you would get? That kind of really starts to open the mind around, am I really operating a business, or am I a sole practitioner?
Right.
Is the business completely rely on me? Can I actually go away for 3 weeks on a vacation and come back and the business will still be there? And Chris, I know you've written a book on this whole area, and you've probably forgotten more than I know in this, but I'm a big preacher around the business needs to be grounded on consistent, repeatable processes. You have to enable technology to do that, and that wraps everything around. I think everybody should aspire to this, a world-class client experience, and that is going to create the greatest amount of value than any kind of investment-oriented business or transactional business, because clients can see that, feel it, and that will be the difference between a client staying and a client versus a client considering a new advisor. We can't control markets, we can't control products, but what we can control is that delivery. So I love those questions. What would you buy your own business? What would you pay for it? And what is the client experience if you became a client today? And is it world class?
Right. No, absolutely. And to your point, I do address all of that in my book. I talk about the 6-circle strategy. I talk about This is how you build a business, because the final circle is fulfillment. And fulfillment is, again, are you looking after your family? Are you looking after your clients? Are you looking after yourself and your staff? And are you creating a legacy that lives on, or is it simply a practice that gets absorbed into something else and more or less goes away? And so that's something you have to think about as an entrepreneur. So now we've talked about from the advisor point of view. What was really cool about the research is we also talked to investors and what they are thinking about when they look at their aging advisor and ask themselves about succession. What's some of the data that came out of that survey?
Yeah, I think, the data is startling that clients are concerned about this, but the real root of this is, why is the conversation not happening? And so I think, Chris, I would say this is probably one of the most uncomfortable conversations and advisor experiences, but it is much needed in the spirit of transparency. So, what is the job of an advisor and the team is really working with our clients on a day-to-day basis to help them live their dreams through sound wealth management and retirement planning. So if that's what we're doing for our clients, there needs to be the same discussion about the advisor's retirement planning and what continuity will exist. Because we know, I think the number was about $4.7 trillion of assets will transition from one generation to another over the next little while. There needs to be a continuity of who the advice givers are in this important role that we play in. And so I think clients, they play a very important role by making sure that they elevate the conversation about what
Right.
continuity and succession looks like when the advisor retires. I mean, I've heard the stories where clients say, "You're never going to retire," or
Right.
I've heard advisors say, "I will be here, till my last breath," for
Right.
example, and very noble. But is that the kind of relationship that should exist? And as any entrepreneur, one day we will exit our business. There will be an exit of the business. Should we choose the way that we do it in the best way that we can, or should we have some unforeseen event come up and really possibly destroy a whole career, life dreams of work?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's an important conversation. Like, it's not like something that people are not seeing. Like, certainly if I had a financial advisor who was over the age of 60, I'd be asking some questions. And I can tell you that I've had, some personal experiences. My accountant had a terrible succession plan. Basically one day I get a letter and like, "Hey man, I've sold the business. I'm out of here. Good luck. And here's your guy, Bob." And I'm like, not a call, not a handoff, not a, "Hey, Bob's a good guy." It's just, "Hey." And, and I've seen some advisors in the same sort of thing. They keep it a secret, keep it a secret, keep it a secret, because they don't want to, stir the pot or poke the bee's nest or whatever
Oh gosh.
analogy we were looking for. And it just makes it worse, because this business is so much about trust and transparency and making sure that people are looked after. And there's nothing better than a strong handoff. If you were my client and I'm saying, "Hey, John, I want you to meet Bob. We've vetted Bob. Bob is great. He's in his 40s. He's going to look after my business. I've taught him all the stuff about your file, and he's just going to continue there." Man, that would make me feel so much better than, "Hey, man, I'm out of here. Here's Bob. Good luck with everything."
That's right.
Now, you've seen and I've seen a lot of horror stories, because you, as you suggested,
Yeah.
it's not just retirement that causes succession to occur. There's death, there's disability, there's lots of events that occur in people's lives that are completely unexpected, and yet cause a great strain on the business and the family and the staff and the clients that could have all been avoided with a simple, well, not even simple, just a succession plan put into place. So
Yeah.
maybe talk about some of the horror stories. Like what happens when you don't have one of these things, and this kind of, like, let's say you're forced into it. What would happen?
Yeah. Before you even consider a succession plan, and whether you are 35, 55, or 75, you need a document, and that document is called a business continuity plan. So
Right.
forget about talking about who the successor is. You're running a business day to day that life can get in the way and things can happen. We experienced COVID. We've experienced things that this current political instability that we're going through, market volatility. There's lots of things going on in the world that could impact a business. And so my number one piece of advice before even having the conversation on succession is, do you actually have a written, documented business continuity plan that if something happened to you or a key member of your team, that we could pull that document out of a file and here is a list of instructions on what you want to have happen. And so I came across an experience in sort of southwestern Ontario where an advisor, very, very well-off advisor, had a very unfortunate accident and passed away. And there was no documented plan. There was no instruction on what to do with the business. There was no successor identified. Literally within hours of this individual's passing, every shark in southwestern Ontario came out. And before you know it, a business that was created over 35 years was destroyed in a span of hours. And so I would say, let's forget even about succession for a second. Whether you're 35, 55, or 75, you should have a documented business continuity plan first and foremost, because I've just seen, and you've seen them too, Chris, like businesses decimated within hours. And, you know, at the end of the day, did we really have a business when we look, or did we actually have something that couldn't sustain an unforeseen event? And that's why we need to have these kinds of plans in place.
No, absolutely. I was thinking when we had, I tell a story constantly. We had an advisor in the East Coast in his mid-40s. So this isn't something that happens to people in their 60s and 70s, mid-40s, on the treadmill.
Yes.
Running on the treadmill. Very fit guy, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, running on the treadmill, drops dead of a heart attack. And once again, spouse was not in the business, 3 young children, not sure what to do. There was nothing documented. Of course, everyone giving advice. And while all of this is delaying, the competition is picking off the clients one by one. And at the end of the day, the value of that business had dropped 40%. And so conservatively, let's say that business was worth $1 million of equity value at that time. That means that spouse and those 3 young children didn't get $400,000 that could have very much helped support them during a very difficult time, because nothing was documented and nobody thought it was actually going to happen to them. So I always say, if you think it's not going to happen to you, it happens to everyone. It's just, when does it happen? So those are the horror stories. Now, on the other side of that, not to spook everybody, what are the success stories? Like, we've been part of, you personally have been part of over 115 advisors going through this process, personally have been through helping them with this process. What are this, where you're like, yes, this was done right, and look at the value that was by everybody?
Yeah, without using names, I'll just use a name, Mary. Mary had about $150 million IROC practice, very very well organized, focused in wealth management. She was life licensed, and that business was generating probably about $800,000 or $900,000 a year of what we would call recurring revenue. And when I started to talk to Mary about her ultimate succession plan, she was very clear, and I think the clarity made the outcome so positive was that she said to me, John, like, I've built a great business, and I know I've got great value built in this business, but I don't want to continue to let that business value ride. I'd like to take that value of the business off the table and realize it now. But I don't know if you can help me, John. I'm not ready to hang up my skates yet. I'd like to continue to play and continue to grow the business. And can we find a mechanism to reward me for growing the business? And yeah, I think we can. And that was kind of the genesis of our Pinnacle Growth Program, which allows advisors to monetize their business today. They don't necessarily have to leave the business. They can continue to grow the business and be rewarded for that growth, both both regularly and in a culminating transaction of the total growth that they create. But it gave them the benefit of giving up all the work of being an entrepreneur,
Right.
and it allowed Mary to go back to doing what she loved the most, which was being in front of clients. But the succession part of it was the key. And what I'm really happy about is, at the time we did this, she wasn't ready to identify her successor.
Right.
But what we agreed to do was work on that together. And so here we are, we're almost 5 years later, and she's now completed the succession. And she's now also monetized all her growth. And that complete solution has taken place in a very structured, clear way around the objectives that Mary had. So that one is near and dear to my heart. And I think it speaks to the flexibility that can be created, especially with some of the programs that we have, Chris. We can customize almost anything.
Well, actually, that's a very good point, because a lot of advisors, it's not that they want to not be advisors anymore, or what they really are looking for is just to do the stuff they like and have a lot of free time, right? So that they can spend it the way they want. And so, another option is, sell a portion of your business, right? Sell X client, these clients, that clients, keep the clients that you love. What I've called on this show before, your raving fans. If you could just spend all day with your raving fans, who are probably your best friends anyhow, that's not really work. Get rid of everybody else, offload the staff, offload all the obligations, and simply do that. That's a great way to, ease into the fact that one day you're not going to be working and you get to still do the things that you love. In fact, we've seen, talking about success stories, we've seen a few people do that. And, they think they're scaling down. They get rid of, let's say, 50% of their business, and then they build that 50% business right back up again within a very short period of time. And they've got they can resell that equity at at the same price. So there's a big win there. So I don't think everyone should think succession planning is quitting. Succession planning is simply redesigning your business around your future needs so that you can do the things that you enjoy.
That's very well put, Chris. And when we started work in this area, I had an original hypothesis that people would sell their business and transition their business and go off and go golfing 5 days a week. We did a lot of those transactions, but there are way more people that would like to continue, have a way to continue to serve clients, raving clients, be engaged, and why not? They've done it. They've done it for so many years. Why not create that environment for the continuity that needs to happen now, and some more continuity that can happen tomorrow? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So swinging back to the research, based on everything you read out of that research, what advice are you giving advisors?
If you look at this from the business owner standpoint first, is make sure that you're building the ideal business that ultimately you can transfer. And I think we use the expression the business. The more that you make your business look like the business that a potential acquirer has, the more valuable it is. So to advisors, I would say make sure that you're building that business that is transferable, that you would pay a lot of money for if you were buying it, and obviously centered in around consistent, repeatable processes and a great client experience. To clients, I think the research is and it's purposeful, is I think we need to elevate these conversations, and clients should have the confidence to bring this topic up. And it should be a very transparent conversation around what the plans are. And the more that we involve our clients in this decision, I think the more aligned they will be. So those would be my pieces of advice. Lots of data to support it, but I break it down into those two pieces.
No, I think that's very, very sound advice. And hopefully everyone who is listening, if they get a few things out of this, that's where you focus. Be very transparent with your clients. They want to know, and they'd be very disappointed if they didn't know. And always, from the time you start your business all the way through to every stage in your business, think about what the end looks like. And I know very few do. They just sort of doing day by day by day. But think about how easy would this business be if someone else had to take it over. If I had to take 5 months off, would this business collapse because I am not here, or would this business thrive? And if it would thrive, then you've actually built a business, not a job, a self-employed job, as what I call it.
That's right.
So, John, this has been great. Now, I don't know if I did the rapid fire with you last time, but I'm going to do the rapid fire with you.
Sure.
My last 3 questions. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions, quick, and the first thing that pops into your mind. And the first one I always ask, or I'm currently asking, is what is the best business book you've ever read? Other than mine. No.
Good to Great. Jim Collins.
Good. Absolutely. I think that's a classic. And if anyone's in business who hasn't read that, that absolutely should be on the reading list. What is the best advice that you have ever received?
The best advice is to collaborate and listen well. Engage people to reach great outcomes. When you work in work in a field like this for so many years, you tend to think you're the expert on everything. But I would say the best piece of advice I've had, I'd say in the last 5 to 7 years, is there is diverse thinking, and we should listen, we should collaborate, and create better outcomes.
I like it. And finally, of course, how would you like to be remembered?
I think in the work that I'm doing today, obviously I want to be remembered in my personal life for being a great dad, being a great husband and a great family member. But I'd say in career, what has been most fulfilling for me in the last probably 10 years is helping advisors realize something that they've been building towards. And a very good friend and advisor out of Peterborough told me, "John, do you realize what you're doing?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm helping people with their succession plan and whatever." And she said, "You're not. What you're doing is you're helping transfer the great legacies that have been built." And when I stood back and heard that, it was like, boy, that's a great purpose to live by, to allow the continuity of some great businesses to continue and transfer that legacy on. So that's the part I want to be very proud of.
I love it. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. So I know a lot of the listeners, they're listening, they're thinking, they're probably taking some notes. So if an advisor really wanted to find out, what is their business worth and how should a succession plan work, or what is this contingency plan, and they wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for somebody to find you, John?
Certainly by email. You can send me an email at john.novachis, Novachis, @ipcc.ca. I'm on LinkedIn. You can DM me, and it doesn't have to be formal. Honestly, a virtual coffee is just as fine as a breakfast meeting or a phone call. So I'm helping people across the country on this, and really, I think it's the more that we can help educate, I think this will drive the right conversation. So you can grab me a lot of ways.
All right. That sounds very good. So I tell you what I've learned is succession is important. It's important as somebody who has bought businesses, and more importantly, I've sold businesses.
That's right.
I can tell you how critical it is. It's critical to yourself. It's critical to your family. It's critical to your team, and it's critical to your clients. It's not something that should be taken lightly or something that's done at the last minute. It's something that should be well thought out and well articulated so that every contingency is taken care of. You care, your clients care, your team cares, everybody cares that this topic is looked after. And if you haven't, if you're one of the, 82% who don't have a plan, if you're one of the 82, please take some time and do it. So once again, thank you very much. We have John Novachis from Investment Planning Council. Thank you for being on Turning the Page. Thank you for educating our audience. Any final words?
No, Chris, I hope congratulations on your book and great success. I know that entrepreneurs are going to love to read it, and I love that last circle around the fulfillment. Really wraps everything up. So congratulations on your success, and I know lots of people will be anxious to get it and read it.
All right. Thank you so much, John, and thank you for being part of the show.
Take care.